I think I'll take this this moment in the transition to announce one more time to those of you who may have just arrived that following the presentation in the atrium we'll be serving strawberry daiquiris. I mean strawberry shortcake. I'm sorry, I had that one wrong. It's strawberries. If you got a thing for strawberries, they'll head to the atrium and they'll satisfy your sweet tooth. John's preparing a connection to Second Life, just so you're aware. So I guess you can consider this a kind of a commute time. Samash? You all set? Okay. All right. Are we ready? Welcome back. It's my great privilege to introduce to you our third presenter in this session, John Fillwalk. He's going to take us in a different kind of direction. It's interesting, the first presentation started 2,000 years ago in the Roman Forum and then took us up to the modernist era in Chicago. David Shane's presentation then brought us back home to Ball State. And the presentation by John Fillwalk is going to take us far, far away from Ball State without having to leave Ball State. And he's going to be talking to us about Second Life. I find it's a kind of poetic fitting bookend to this session because we started in the Roman Forum 2,000 years ago, and in a sense, John's going to be talking about a new kind of forum for today. So it's a kind of a poetic way to think about framing these three presentations. John Fillwalk has a BFA from Clark College, an MA in Intermedia and Video Art from the University of Iowa in Iowa City. He also has an MFA in Intermedia and Video Art from the University of Iowa as well in 1990. He's an associate professor in the Department of Art. Please join me in welcoming to the CAP Symposium, John Fillwalk.
That should be a little better. Well, I first of all want to thank the Dean and the Associate Dean for inviting me in today. We've been working with CAP over the years. Obviously, I work closely with Kevin, but through SimLab and now with your Dean and Associate Dean, involved in a number of projects from Biotown to Second Life, I think, as we look at the development of what can happen here. Let me just give you a little brief introduction, and then we can, I know you all want to see campus probably, but I can give you a brief introduction into how we came into this space and the lens that we started to look at it through. Basically, it started off on the curriculum side of things. We were looking at repurposing a module that I did in 2001, which was CD-ROM based, delivering aspects of a cinematography course at that time using CD-ROM and director-based experience. Obviously, just like in architecture, a lot of the learning takes place in a hands-on fashion. And when you look at trying to extend the classroom off into a distance education environment, that's what you lose first. So, amongst other things. So we looked at, how can we virtualize certain aspects of the equipment, in this case filmmaking gear, but with the whole time keeping in mind that this could be anything. This could be any of the studio environments potentially, or science labs, just kind of keeping that in the background in terms of the instructional design and then also the methodology about how we're approaching virtualizing equipment. But obviously when you're also in a online learning environment, you lose other things. For instance, if you're taking, let's say, a remote ed course through the web, you don't get a chance really to understand meet your students rather, or your professor. And so even though it's asynchronous, you can go off on your own and learn at your own pace, you don't have these synchronous moments. I mean, you do have things obviously like chat rooms and that. But here, the synchronicity of the potential for synchronicity in a virtual environment is pretty compelling. And so although the latte might be virtual or the croissant or whatever it might be, the experience is powerful. So I don't know how many people have been in Second Life or any other virtual environment, but you get to create your avatar and they can look at like yourself or not, or have wings or whatever it might be. But to sit down with somebody and share food and either chat in a chat line down here or voice. The past about a year now, voice has been active. So we could all do this very same thing in Second Life and sit around tables and chairs, and we could all hear each other's voice. So that community aspect is pretty interesting. So that's sort of what brought us in here. And for the sake of time, I should probably let you see some things. So we started, and I'll just sort of fly around as we chat, but we had the opportunity to reinvent campus, so we took that. And we're in Indiana, we don't have any water, so a canal system seemed to make sense, of course. So we thought about this, of course, from the functionality of a portal landing pad that physically you would launch off into this virtual environment. We wanted a orientation kind of hub, so we created that, and of course, using Schaefer Tower as that iconic kind of device. But then we created other quads. So there's a central.
It's not showing up in the screen. I think the resolution is too high.
It's not what?
I think the resolution is too high. It's not showing up in the screen.
Okay. You want my resolution?
I know, it's so pretty.
Is it, do I need to do that, or I do? Okay, then I will. What's that? Going back to. Do you want to do it, Chris? Why don't you set it up so how, I can chat while he's doing that. So you kind of get a sense of programmatically how we're looking at designing the space. So again, that centralized hub. Different quadrants: arts, sciences, humanities, orientation quads, that sort of thing. I don't know if how aware you are of how Ball State has entered into Second Life, but there are other islands that classes take place on as well. This is really just the main portal island. So you'd come in, and lots of storefronts for different types of activity then would be represented here, and you can go launch off and go to visit whatever it might be. So in our case, this island, classroom management, security is an issue. We've kept the island no-fly, and then all the secure classroom environments are floating above us at the moment. So this is really all the public space, and am I good? Okay. So again, I'll kind of fly you around here. Certain buildings we've built pretty literally, or very literally, as you can see. And again, going off architects' PDFs and actual photography from surfaces. So this is real Bracken, or virtual Bracken brick, and window space, and that sort of thing. But we kept it pretty traditional, but using the vocabulary of campus, obviously red brick and cut limestone and that kind of thing. We had the opportunity to build virtual Benny, which was fun. There she is. These I'm flying by right now are set up as student studio space, guest lecturer space, that sort of thing. We'll come back to this area in a minute. Sursa, again, going off actual plans. Obviously, the more contemporary buildings, we had better detail on that. And as much as we could, everything is scripted. So obviously, we came in here to teach a certain course, but doing what we do, since it's all around 3D and virtual worlds, was a great opportunity for us to build campus out because we needed a place to teach. So that, and the project just kept ballooning. So, but it was fun. I mean, I'm from CFA, so certain things like building CIRSA were a nice opportunity for us, and everything's scripted in here, so you can sit down and run the boards if you like, or if you're supposed to. Oops, I do have a right mouse button. Seats are scripted. You can choose your avatar's pose to reflect his or her feelings. That's it. And, things like that, little touches, but they were time-consuming, but they were just a lot of fun to virtualize. The piano is scripted. You can play it. Also accepts MP3 streams, that sort of thing. So you can stream in actual content. We have done what are called mixed reality events, and when we finish up here, I will show you one at the end that's going to happen tonight. But we can bring video and audio into here in any kind of stream. We took a concert out of CIRSA a couple weeks ago and streamed it into virtual CIRSA. So this, again, these are all public spaces. I can't, we've been working on this project for about a year and a half, so I can't, in the amount of time, I'll just have to be very selective about what I show you here. But faculty offices, online indicators of whether your faculty member is present or in the office, that kind of thing. Video conferencing, in-world, mixed reality again, master classes, remote instruction taking place. So a lot of these are more little proof of concept kind of ideas. Traditional classroom, poses for the lecturer, so they do this, and they get a face light and a lectern light, PowerPoint works. All of the traditional tools that we use in an electronic classroom are basically emulated here. Obviously we came into this space to teach cinema, so that's how we spent the bulk of our time thinking about how do we do the things that we need to do in real life, how do we do them in a virtual environment. So Chroma Key Studios, they work the same way. The avatar would go in here. It's scripted, obviously, so we can change the key. It actually works better than real life because there aren't shadows and things like that, so that works pretty well. Built out all the equipment. I mean, we have trucks with cranes and helicopters and dollies and booms and all the Mole Richardson lighting line, and I'll show you a little bit of that. Let me get out of here. So this is a big sound stage. We're going to bring IPR in, do live shows. You get to see Stan Solar's avatar in the morning, things like that. I'll listen to Stan, but I'm looking forward to that. So working with some different community partners locally on campus to bring them into Second Life. And identifying what's really pretty innovative in how it uses the virtual. We're trying to avoid sort of just taking real life ideas and then just pushing them into this environment. Orientation center, in this case, passes out sort of survival kit type things. Bracken has some showcases a little bit more of the web interoperability, so I'll show that briefly. Again, we're trying to do as many live events as we can. Live reference desk, so when in real life in Bracken there's a reference librarian that you can walk up and ask questions to. They're mirrored here. They're actually logged in Second Life, and then they can answer questions that people would come into Second Life with. So that's set up. The computers launch you off to URLs of your choice. So I can then launch off and go to web page, and the web integration now in Second Life is pretty decent. It's gotten much better than if you've used it earlier. We can actually log into CardCat and do all those sorts of operations, virtual libraries. That, because obviously the library has been leading on a lot of virtualizing information, of course. So for us, that was a nice connection to make. I like this. It's a little library did do a PDA version of their functionality, so it works very well in Second Life. And so you can, again, all this works, and it's nice because it's very quick. So it uses a Mozilla within Second Life, so you do get that web browser experience. And then again, we had, this is a project we're doing later on in the year with Center for Middletown Studies, sort of a Conner Prairie approach, where it's a living museum taking the oral history and photographic history of Muncie in the 20s and 30s, translating that into a virtual environment where people would be in character and costume, and you'd be able to go through that virtually. So we're partnering with them on that. But again, just nice little vistas, water everywhere, of course, so we kind of went nuts and put in, we're builders, so just like you guys, so we put in, shadows for trees and all these little details that, help really make a pretty compelling aesthetic experience. And we're designing it all in the next version of Second Life, which is the beta viewer, which is just beautiful. It's called Windlight, and which is a technology they purchased, but the water and the sky and everything are much more sophisticated than they used to be. So we're pleased with that and have enjoyed the aesthetic experience of building in here as well. Well, let me, maybe just on this whirlwind tour here, and you can check, there are scripted swans and fish and ducks in the water, little things like that. You can rent a canoe and paddle down the canals. And over here, tonight, I can talk about this briefly, in actually 6 minutes. There's a live event that'll start here. And what I'm doing at the moment is, over in CMD, I've set up a camera, and we're taking a live feed out of CMD, streaming it up through QuickTime Broadcaster, pulling it back down in here, and we've announced this event as what's called a mixed reality event. So there's a party in CMD to celebrate their 5th birthday over there. We've invited avatars from all over the world to come in and participate, and I think our virtual spread is a little nicer, but you can get mimosas and sushi, and it's fresh because we're near the ocean, so it's all good. And so that's here, and your avatar can click on it and they wear it, and that sort of thing. So it's a reception. There's some beanbags to sit on. This is an installation that, I don't know if this will play. No, the sound isn't up, but this is an interactive installation which is very typical of the work that we do in real life, but we're translating that into a virtual environment. The sound is spatial here. It's not up, but the avatar does a live spatial mix as they walk through, and your experience of that changes, depends on position. So we're also working a lot, just to wrap it up, we're also working a lot with connections back to databases. So we can pull database information. We're working with the Art Museum currently, and we'll be able to pull that in and then manifest itself within Second Life, all that information that exists in any database. And with Kiley's project too, there's a nice opportunity for his idea of a virtual art museum. So we can, in his case, with his project, we could take something like the Sullivan Building, which is in pieces now, and then through their databases, pull those together, connect them in a virtual environment. It could be something like Second Life, but it also could be something more kiosk-based that's in a museum. So that sort of back-end functionality is something that we work a lot with too. So why don't I leave it there just to stay on time, and so we have a couple minutes for questions. It's kind of a very quick tour through this without really showing you some of the equipment functionality, because all the lights are scripted, the cameras, and they work as learning tools, but you can also check them out and make virtual movies with them as well. So the lights work, the physics of the lights, all that. Yeah.
2 questions. First one is, how long did it take to generate this environment? Second question, and more to some of the stuff I do, Is it possible to take, Google now is driving down roads and capturing images. Could you overlay that information? I do the GIS thing, and it would be wonderful to be able to take that information, throw it into just being able to walk down a street in a static GIS platform and see that imagery so that the user or the student could actually more closely associate with what's going on in the street.
Right. First question, this took, I would say, about 6 months of research, putting a team together, and about 18 months to build to this point. And that's at times up to I'd say, 25 people all over the world that have worked on this. The core group on campus is about 4 people, myself included, but at our peak it was about 25 people. But now that it's here, everybody can come and use the public portion of it. The other question, yes, you can do some of that right now in Second Life, but Google, the rumor is Google is coming out with their own virtual world, and when you imagine the connectivity to Google Earth and Google Maps, I mean, it should be, I think it was supposed to be out this quarter, but sometime maybe mid-year, they should, rumor has it, come out with their own 3D multi-user online environment. So.
Other questions? Please, your name.
Kiley. What is the extent of the complexity and the amount of objects you can create in Second Life?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's limited to 15,000 what are called prims. A prim is, for instance, if I make that is the smallest unit of geometry within Second Life. So it's essentially, it's a cube, obviously, but it could be a sphere, it could be a pyramid. 15,000 of those on an island. We're actually at our max right now on this island, so we've filled it up. So we need another island, I guess. But and we're pretty conservative. I mean, a lot of the builders that we work with come from the Maya side of things, which is very polygonally heavy. So they're used to building pretty heavy things, geometry-wise. But we've gotten them to be very refined and tell the visual story more with textures than geometry. So, but even then, I mean, you go through it pretty quickly. So, yes.
Other questions?
Antonieta Angulo. My question is Second Life also scripted with real constraints? Meaning real world constraints?
With real
world constraints.
Real work constraints?
Gravity,
oh, yes.
weight. I see that you can fly, but what about the other constraints?
Yes. It has a physics engine. In fact, yesterday they launched the new physics engine, which is called Havoc 4. We can make objects physical, and then it's limited, but you can determine what type of material you want them to be. So how they behave with gravity, with collision detection, that sort of thing, even what sound they make. So if I make this glass and then I just let it go, it won't break, but you can see that the physics are there. It's limited. It's not Maya or some other 3D package. It's not like that, but it is there. There is a wind in Second Life, and you create, for instance, our flag. You can see responds to that, and so you can create flexible geometry. And then, or some of the grasses and plants behave that way. So there is a type of physics engine, and the new one is supposed to be quite good.
Guillermo Vázquez de Velasco. In the past, and perhaps still in many instances, when we're working for communities and we want their feedback, we build models. Sometimes even models where you can stick your head under, and so that you can have the perception of being inside the building. But of course, it's difficult to provide access to everyone into those environments. Second Life could provide us with an environment where we can put the project and invite everyone to come in and provide us with feedback about how they feel, what they think about the project. Do you know of any research that relates the perception of reality with the perception in Second Life? In other words, how reliable the feedback from the avatars would be in terms of whether they like, enjoy, the environment we're proposing. Any studies of that nature that you may know of?
In terms of a research study, has that been done, that, as far as I'm aware of? Not that I'm aware of, but I know exactly what you're saying. We are, for Biotown, there are certain moments that we want to actually make live in Second Life because, like you said, one of the advantages of this technology is, first of all, it's free, so you can download the client for free, and it's just really, I know it is pretty graphics card intensive, but right, I mean, people from all over the world, or in this case, Reynolds, Indiana, or state legislators, or whoever is part of that, let's say the Biotown project, for instance, can get on and do a live walkthrough and interact with the proposed, plan. So now how compelling that is, or convincing versus a more traditional model. Yes, right. Because, and obviously certain things we can simulate quite nicely. For instance, time of day is the environment editor, which, oh, we have a visitor. The environment editor is really quite robust in terms of, the clouds, the water, fog, all of that. And so, because I know, what is it, Heliodon, or what's the device? Okay. Right, so that sort of thing we can do, just like in any other 3D environment. But here in Second Life, you can change the time of day to defaults quite easily, or you can specifically look at. So we're already in sunset, but for instance, we can. Here's sunrise and midnight. Oops. So that's that sort of thing.
One final question is, can you fly up to the Beneficence sculpture and pry open her box and see what's inside there?
Sure.
I'm just dying to know what she's got inside of that box.
Kevin.
It's a joke.
No, that's good. I'll do it.
Yeah.
Where is it? It's well, I built it, so it's just like some pop beads. Just a few spheres, actually. It's a little bit anticlimactic. I suppose we should really think about that as some kind of opportunity. But so there they are. And it's actually empty.
Oh my!
I need to do something about that. It could be a little Easter egg, maybe.
Okay, and what time did you say that event was at the CMD tonight?
It's right after this event. So it starts at 5 and goes to 7. So, and you're free to come by in real life across the street or in Second Life.
Great. Thanks so much, John.
Oops.